with CJ, with CJ, with CJ. Coolin' with CJ, with CJ, with CJ. We coolin' with CJ, with CJ, with CJ.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a living legend, a living icon. I don't use that word use loosely, so you know this is a big deal. Um, he is a premier sports agent and entrepreneur, best-selling author, CEO of a company. He's represented many athletes in his profession: football, basketball, baseball, hockey, boxing, golf. He's been featured in 60 Minutes, Larry King Live, The Today Show, many more shows, magazines like Business Week, Sports Illustrated, ESPN Magazine, Playboy, Forbes, People Magazine. I mean, he's a jack of all trades. What hasn't he done? From Newport, California, Mr. Leigh Steinberg. How you doing?
With you.
Appreciate you joining me today. We're going to have a good conversation. You guys are going to see why I'm calling this man a living legend, a living icon by the end of this episode. So, Leigh, let's just get into the beginning. So, what made you want to become a sports agent? What made you want to get into the industry?
There was really no field of sports agentry when I began. It was 1975. I was a dorm counselor at UC Berkeley in an undergraduate dorm, and they moved the freshman football team into the dorm. And one of the athletes was the quarterback, Steve Bartkowski. So time passes. I'm just starting my legal career, but I've been traveling around the world. And Bartkowski ends up the number one pick overall in the 1975 draft and asked me to represent him. So there I was, brimming with legal experience, never having practiced before. And I had the first pick overall. And we got the largest rookie contract in NFL history. So that was 51 years ago. And I started the practice then, but again, teams could just hang up the phone and say, we don't deal with agents. There was no guaranteed right of representation, so it's obviously evolved quite a bit since then.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so let's talk about the SMD agency that you and Jeff started. So just talk about how that came about, like what's the procedure, the process of starting, a sports agency, what I'm pretty sure isn't that easy.
So I continued on representing players and developed the philosophy that if athletes would go back and retrace their roots, go back to the high school community and set up a scholarship fund or work with the church or Boys and Girls Club, and then network at the university level so that they became mentored by alums and set up some program at the weight room or some scholarship. And then at the pro level, set up a charitable foundation that attacks some problem that's personal to the athlete and get the leading business figures, political figures, and community leaders on a board to execute a program. So that's like Warwick Dunn, who's the former running back, has put over 200 single mothers and fathers into the first home they'll ever own by making a down payment. So it's athletes changing lives. So in 1985, Jeff Morad joined me, and he was interested in baseball. I had represented some baseball players, but eventually that firm grew in baseball to have 60 players, and in football to have 90 players.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. All right, Leigh. So here's a part in the segment where, people will get an insight of, how much of a sports legend you are. So Leigh has secured over $4 billion for 300 plus athletes. And some of those athletes are legendary Hall of Famers, current players that are in the league, such as Howie Long, Warren Moon, Troy Aikman, Oscar De La Hoya, Lennox Lewis, and none other than the 3 Super Bowl champion himself, Patrick Mahomes. So my question to you, and not only that, let me throw this in here too. So not only that, but I heard you have the record for most first overall pick contracts, I believe, in the NFL with 8. So that's something that's big time, and then you have over 62 first round picks overall. So how do you get your clientele? Like, is that a process where you've become so big that they reach out to you? Do you go to colleges? Do you go to NFL camps? How do you get your clientele?
So remember, all of this is prior to NILs, which has
Yeah.
now changed everything because you got 15-year-olds trying to market
Yeah.
them. So, but traditionally, uh, a parent
Mm.
facing their son or daughter being part of a draft will set up some screening process. So you have to identify who the person is running the process, running the interviews, and then make a presentation to them. Many times it's the parents in the spring or summer before the final season that are doing the interviews. And so you probably have a couple thousand people trying to, I think the NFLPA has over 1,000 certified agents, so the competition level is extremely high. But then it's a matter of listening skills. Can you draw out another human being and cut below the surface so you get to their deepest anxieties and fears and greatest hopes and dreams? If you can put your head and heart in another person and see the world the way they see it, then you can bond. So it's really getting a sense of the values. And then you need a plan
Yeah.
from the day that you would sign an athlete. How is he going to approach the draft? Where is he going to train? What uh, how is he going to relate to teams? And so that's sort of the process.
Yeah, nice, nice. Now, it's one thing to obviously get the player, whether they're just beginning, a rookie, or whether they're, been in the league for a while, a veteran. But getting the player is one thing, but how is it when it comes to negotiating contracts? Now, it's good agents and then there's great agents. So I feel you're in that class of great agents. So how is it when you have to negotiate a contract with, team ownership and people of that nature?
So I wrote a book on the topic of negotiating called Winning with Integrity: How to Get What You Want Without Losing Your Soul. And so it's a matter of win-win negotiating. It's the same relationships with the same general managers or the same owners are going to occur over and over and over again. So you have to set up an atmosphere of trust
Mhm.
where and I have to figure out how I can maximize the revenue for my player but still fulfill what ownership needs. And and still give a player a real chance to be with the team that under the cap has enough room that they're going to be winners because that's what they care about in the end. So it's being flexible, listening very closely to what the uh, uh, person representing the team is talking about and trying to be creative in crafting solutions.
Yeah, nice, nice. So Lee, you kind of touched on it a little bit. So for those who don't know out there, your book that you just touched on was a bestseller, and then you actually had another book the agent, a 40-year career making deals and changing the game. So how did you get into the field, I guess you can say, of producing, wanting to make a book, instead of just maybe being a public speaker or a keynote speaker, just sharing this information, but instead you put it in a book. So where did the book idea come from?
Well, I do both.
Ah,
I grew up with a mom who was a librarian,
okay.
and I've written book reviews and movie reviews and opinion pieces like for the New York Times and the LA Times. So I thought people would always ask me questions when I gave speeches about negotiating, so that made me think perhaps there was a better way because everyone negotiates in their own life, husbands and wives, parents with their kids, you buy a house, you buy a car. And then the second one was an autobiography. So it and a lot of it is about trying to spread the philosophy of making a difference in the world. My dad used to look at me and say, when you're looking for someone to fix a problem, someone to address a situation. He'd say the tendency is to wait for this amorphous they or them to solve it, right?
Right.
Older people, political figures.
Yeah.
And he would say, son, you could wait forever. The they in life is you. You are the they. So I wrote that book, and now I have a third book that'll probably be out around the Super Bowl called The Comeback: Resilience, Empathy, and What Matters. So it's just another way of communicating with people and trying to spread good values.
Yeah, nice, nice. Okay, Lee, this is the part of the segment where it's called Fast Five. So I don't know if you ever seen, you probably have the show Family Feud. At the end, they have a segment where they do fast money, and you kind of have to answer the question in a timely manner. So this is a segment where I just ask you five quick questions, and you just give me a one-word answer, and then we'll jump back into the questions. All right, Lee. So what is your favorite sport to watch?
Basketball.
Basketball. Do you have a favorite client? And it can be for various reasons.
Probably the longest client I was with, Warren Moon.
Warren Moon. Gotcha. I'm a diehard Vikings fan, so I love that. What's your favorite movie?
The Godfather.
The Godfather. All right. Favorite book?
There's a book called Sapiens by Noah Deval Harari that talks about the history of human beings' evolution.
Nice, nice. And who is your favorite current athlete? Could be any sport.
Well, I probably would say Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Okay, cool, cool. All right. So I know you said your favorite movie was The Godfather, so you know where I'm going with this. So there's a movie out for you don't know called Jerry Maguire. And guess who that movie was based off? Yours truly, Lee. So just tell me how that came about. Obviously, the movie is about a sports agent, but just how, I guess, producers reached out to you. How did you were actually in the movie as well? So how did that come about, just having a movie made about your life?
So I think if you look over my shoulder, there's a picture of Cuba Gooding, Tom Cruise, and
Yep.
myself on the set.
Yep.
Cameron Crowe, the director-writer, called me in 1993 and asked if he could follow me around to do research for a book that would be based on, for a movie that would be based on a sports agent. And he had written a movie called Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is now pretty old, but it was very funny. So I thought this might be fun. And so he went everywhere I did. To the 93 draft where Drew Bledsoe was the first pick. He came up to the press conference. He came to the league meetings with me where I was marching around Tim McDonald, who was a free agent. I set him up to interview people. And I told him stories, lots of stories. He went to pro scouting day at USC. He came to the Super Bowl with me, came to my party.
Nice.
And we went to a series of games. And I told him stories, lots of stories. And so then he went off and wrote a script. My job as technical advisor was to vet the script to make sure that you as a sports fan didn't think the dialogue or the look on the set was phony.
Okay.
And then he gave me actors like Cuba Gooding Jr. I took down to the Super Bowl in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I made him pretend he was a wide receiver client of mine
Yeah.
for a week, and he hung out with Monty Toomer and Desmond Howard. And I actually had to show the quarterback in the film, played by Jerry O'Connell, how to throw a spiral because he had gone to NYU and they didn't have a football program there.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's been 26 years now, and every time I'm out at an airport or out to dinner, generally someone will come up and either say 4 words to me or ask me to say 4 words that start with "show me the."
Yep. You got it, money. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, you've actually worked in TV and film outside of Jerry Maguire with Fox Television, Warner Brothers Studio, ABC Entertainment, and HBO. So, how did you translate from being, in the sports industry and then to the TV and film industry?
it's all content. It's all entertainment. So, for example, right now, football is not only the most popular sport with the NFL in this country, it's the most popular television show.
Yeah.
So, the 61 of the top 100 shows last year were nighttime NFL football. It's extraordinary. So, it's all content. So, producing books, documentaries, dramatically scripted series or television. It's all content, and so we try to develop interesting interesting content.
Yeah.
It could be a reality show. It could be a big theater release. It could be anything, but the concept is that we're all in the entertainment business, and
Right.
so it's a natural outgrowth.
Yeah, right. Nice, nice. Okay, so I believe it was 1992, Lee. You helped a successful campaign for the San Francisco Giants baseball club relocating to Florida, and for that, the mayor at the time, Frank Jordan, honored you by declaring a Leigh Steinberg Day in the city of San Francisco. Like, how was that feel? You have a whole day named after you in one of the biggest cities in the world. So how was that, and how did the campaign come about?
I have the keys to a number of cities. They're
Nice.
not always the biggest, but I've got Jacksonville and Memphis and
Oh,
Indianapolis and
nice.
um, so in 1992, the San Francisco Giants baseball club
Mhm.
um, was going to leave San Francisco, and the owner was selling the franchise to a group of businessmen in Tampa Bay. So I don't think it's fair to
Mhm.
rip a franchise that's supported out of the heart of a city.
Yeah.
And if you claim that not only you may be a private business, but you claim to be your San Francisco Giants, like you're the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's an implied obligation to come win or lose to games and to
Yeah.
support and buy memorabilia and all the rest of it. So I thought it was wrong. So I knew that to save the team, we'd have to find a new ownership group. We'd have to turn the whole environment around because everyone assumed it was just a done deal. And we had to convince the National League to uh, say it was against the best interest of baseball to allow the team to move. And so it was a lot of organizing. It was putting together a group. It was trying to get the public to fight to keep their team. And I did the same thing with the Oakland A's, and then later led an effort to save the Rams because I want to try to be a steward of sport, not just worry about my clients, but the health of the sport.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Okay, Lee, so let's go back to the NFL. I know it's your favorite sport to watch. So they have something right now called the International Series, where football teams go to other countries and basically showcase their talents for people that don't have that access like we do in America to go see games. So I know we have, I believe, three games in London this year. The Vikings, one of my team, plays the Jets. We had a game for the first time in South America in Brazil, and then we have one in Germany coming up. So where do you see this international series going? Do you think it's a good thing for football, the NFL? Do you think it's something that's too much? Do you think it can expand? Do you think maybe we can go from 5 to 10 games a season, outside of the USA? So where do you see this international series going?
I think it'll continue to grow and expand because
Mhm.
the NBA is worldwide. They play basketball everywhere. But
Yep.
we play American football, and to the rest of the world,
Mhm.
football is soccer.
Yep.
And so that's their passion, the World Cup. So the problem is if you're looking to grow the sport, we pretty much maxed out the United States.
Yeah.
So trying to give some exposure in South America and Europe,
Mhm.
uh, probably in the Far East, allows the internationalization of the game. And then perhaps people will end up uh, getting popular, and maybe one day there'll be a franchise. And the only problem is the travel time,
Yeah.
which is it takes so long to get to Germany or to London or even to South America that it takes a team outside of its normal routine
Mm.
and sort of disrupts
Yeah.
their schedule. If they could figure out the travel, then I bet there'd be a big market for it.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Okay, Lee. So obviously you have a great resume, but you also do a lot of stuff that people may not know about. So let's talk about the Steinberg Leadership Institute. So, how that came about, what's the purpose of it, and where it is now, how it's moving forward.
So I became concerned that hate groups, skinheads, and other people were rising and in the ascendancy, and they still are. And we need to push back on racism, lack of tolerance, and the rest of it. So I organized with the B'nai Anti-Defamation League of the B'nai B'rith a program where we trained young professionals, doctors, lawyers, housewives, teachers, and gave them training how to spot skinheads and hate groups, how to help local police departments push back and do intelligence, how to intervene in crisis situations, and then lastly, how to go into school systems and promote tolerance so that people aren't afraid, kids aren't afraid of people that come from other backgrounds. And so we eventually trained about 10,000 young volunteers, and currently I'm getting ready to try to do it again because the powers of intolerance, anti-black, anti-Asian, anti-Latino, anti-Semitism, yeah, are on the rise again.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, Lee, I know you've done some scholarship programs at high schools and things of that nature. So just talk about that, like how you're helping the younger generation to, get to the goals they want to, get to, whether that's being a sports agent or something else, helping them, further their education.
So I've done about 30 agent academies, and you go to business school, law school, or um, sports management, and they teach you the principles of
Hmm.
things. They don't teach you the actual skill set.
Yeah.
So we bring young people. I'm trying to create the next generation of principled, ethical, talented professionals into the world of sports. And they can work for a team, a league, a conference, an athletic department, sports marketing, sports PR,
Hmm.
um, sports media, facilities management. So we bring them together and teach them listening skills and then how to recruit or how to sell, and then how to negotiate. And we have them do a negotiation where half of them play general managers and half of them play
Yes.
uh, agents, and they negotiate a contract. And so, and then we show them how to set up a charitable foundation, how to deal with damage control, and also have done a sports career conference
Mhm.
that takes all the different fields and brings experts. So the whole thing is to educate that next generation and give them mentors that they can be in contact with.
Yeah, nice, nice. Okay, Lee. All right, Lee. So this is going to be my final question, kind of a personal question, but I feel like, you can help a lot of people out there with this question. So, you're coming up on I think about 15 years of sobriety. So just tell me, even though you're this big time sports agent, you're still human. So people go through stuff, whether it's athletes, professional athletes. You can be the president of the United States and still go through personal problems that people don't know about. So just talk about what that process was like and how you overcame it.
So I went through a rough period in my life
Mhm.
where my two kids were found to be blind.
Mhm.
My father died of cancer. We lost a house to mold in it,
Yeah.
and I just felt helpless. And so I did the wrong thing. I turned to alcohol to sort of blunt out the pain. And eventually I realized that I wasn't controlling it, it was controlling me.
Mm. Yeah.
And so you have to break denial about the fact that you have a problem. And then I turned to a unique fellowship and a 12-step program, and got a sponsor, got a home group, got a 12-step program,
Mm.
and dedicated my life that I would be a good father and I'd be sober. And if nothing else, that was enough.
Yeah.
And so I just passed 14 and a half years. And uh, if you're out there and you're struggling and you're despairing because of problems with addictive substances, just know there's hope. Um, 15 years ago, I was sitting on my father's bed, and all I could think of was drinking more vodka. And now I've got great relationships with my kids, uh, and back trying to make a difference in the world. And I was never concerned about rebuilding my business.
Yeah.
Felt I could do that, but I had to conquer sobriety.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know who Leigh Steinberg was before today, you do now. Like I said, the living legend, the living icon, Leigh. I appreciate you for stopping by the studio and talking with me.
Been my pleasure.
With CJ, coolin'. With CJ, with CJ, with CJ, coolin'. With CJ, with CJ, with CJ, we coolin'. With CJ, with CJ, with CJ.
You just got moss. Coolin' with CJ. It's your boy Day Green.